Arrival at the New Dawn. Astrophysicist Dr. Evan Blake peered out the viewport of the starship Pioneer, his eyes tracing the curve of Proxima Centauri b as it loomed large before them. The communications officer, Lieutenant Marcus Reed, joined him, both men awed by the sight. "Almost hard to believe we're here, isn't it?" Marcus said, his voice a mix of excitement and nerves. Evan nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities of what lay ahead. "It's more than just belief at this point. It's reality. And it's ours to explore." As the ship entered a stable orbit, Captain Laura Chan called them to the bridge. "Gentlemen, it's time to go over the landing procedures. We need all hands on deck for this." The trio gathered around the holographic table displaying the topography of their landing zone. Evan pointed to a flat plain near a large body of water. "This spot has potential. Water proximity could mean life, or at the very least, resources." Laura considered this, then nodded in agreement. "Set up the descent coordinates, Marcus. Evan, prepare your equipment. Once we land, you'll have to move fast." The descent was a tense affair, the ship shuddering as it passed through the planet's atmosphere. Evan's heart raced with anticipation. As they touched down, the hull vibrating beneath their feet, he felt a surge of triumph. They had made it. They were the first humans to set foot on an alien world orbiting another star. "All right, let's suit up and check the airlocks," Laura commanded. The team donned their space suits with practiced efficiency, each member double-checking the other's gear. Safety was paramount. Even a small leak could be disastrous. The airlock doors hissed open, revealing the alien landscape bathed in the light of Proxima Centauri. Evan stepped out first, followed by Marcus and Laura. Their boots crunched on the unfamiliar soil, each step kicking up puffs of reddish dust. "This is it," Evan broadcast over the radio, his voice echoing slightly in his helmet. "We're walking on another world." Marcus let out a low whistle. "And to think, this is just day one. What do you think we'll find here, Evan?" Evan looked around, taking in the rolling hills and distant mountains. "If we're lucky, signs of life. If not, enough data to keep us busy for years." They set up their initial research station, a series of modular units that quickly linked together to form an airtight habitat. As Evan calibrated the atmospheric sensors, Laura surveyed the area with a pair of binoculars. "Seems quiet," she mused. "Too quiet." "Better than the alternative," Marcus joked. "I don't fancy running from alien beasts on our first day." Evan chuckled, but his eyes were on the readouts from his equipment. "Atmosphere is stable, breathable if you're in a pinch, but I wouldn't recommend it without filtering for unknown pathogens." As the sun set on Proxima Centauri b, casting long shadows across the alien terrain, the Pioneer crew settled into their new home. They had meals together in the habitat's common area, discussing their plans for the days ahead. "Tomorrow, we'll start with soil samples and water analysis," Evan proposed. "If this planet can support life, we'll find evidence there." Laura nodded in agreement. "And the sooner we know what we're dealing with, the better." The men nodded, their minds already racing with the possibilities of the next day. As they retired to their quarters, the stars above shone brightly, alien yet somehow familiar. Evan gazed out his porthole, his thoughts drifting to the adventures that awaited them under the alien stars. Chapter 2. First Contact. The second day on Proxima Centauri dawned with a crisp clarity. Dr. Evan Blake was already at his station, examining the overnight data, when Marcus Reed strode in, his face lit with a grin. "Morning, Evan. What's the good word?" Marcus asked, peering over Evan's shoulder at the arrays of graphs and numbers. "We've got high traces of organic compounds in the northern sector samples," Evan replied, pointing to a brightly colored graph. "It's early, but it could be a precursor to life." "Sounds like we're in for an exciting day," Marcus said, clapping his hands together. "Should we wake the captain and get moving?" Evan nodded, and together they made their way to Captain Laura Chen's quarters. After briefing her on the findings, the trio geared up and headed to the northern sector, their rover kicking up clouds of dust as they traversed the alien terrain. "Look at that rock formation," Laura said, gesturing towards a series of jagged outcrops. "Doesn't that look structured to you?" "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Evan asked, his interest piqued. "Artificial?" "It's possible," Laura said as she stopped the rover. "Let's check it out." They approached the formation on foot, scanning and documenting. As they rounded a particularly large boulder, they froze. In front of them stood a creature. It was unmistakably alien, bipedal, with shimmering skin that seemed to absorb light. Marcus instinctively stepped in front, his hand reaching for his sidearm, but Evan held out an arm to stop him. "Wait, it hasn't made any aggressive moves." The alien tilted its head, watching them closely. Evan slowly reached into his pack and pulled out the translator device. "Hello, I'm Evan. We come in peace." The device chirped and whirred as it translated his words into a series of harmonic tones. The alien listened, then responded in a melodious voice that the device rendered into English. "I am Lyra. You are far from home, humans." The simplicity of her statement and the calmness in her voice eased some of the tension. "We are explorers," Laura added, stepping forward. "We mean no harm." Lyra nodded slowly, her gaze sweeping over each of them. "Many cycles ago, others like you came. They left when our star flared." "This planet is full of surprises," Marcus remarked, looking back at the rock formation. "Were they like us, looking for life?" "They were, but they fled in fear," Lyra explained. "You are different. You seek understanding, not just life." "We do," Evan confirmed. "And we'd like to learn from you, if you're willing." Lyra gestured for them to follow her. "Come, there is much to show you." As they followed, the landscape around them gradually changed. It became evident that what they had mistaken for natural formations were indeed subtle signs of habitation and civilization, structures masterfully integrated into the environment, nearly invisible unless one knew what to look for. "How have you achieved such harmony with your surroundings?" Evan asked, genuinely curious as he recorded everything on his handheld. "It is our way," Lyra replied, "to live with the star, not against it." Their discussion continued as they walked, with Lyra explaining the philosophy of her people and the humans sharing insights from Earth. It was the beginning of what promised to be a profound exchange of knowledge. By the time they returned to the rover, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the land. "There's a lot we can learn from each other," Laura mused. "This could be the start of something bigger than any of us." "Agreed," said Evan, watching Lyra disappear back into the landscape. "Today we made contact, but tomorrow we start understanding." As they drove back to base, the stars began to appear, twinkling in the unfamiliar sky. Marcus glanced at Evan, a smile spreading across his face. "Think of the stories we'll tell when we get back home." Evan nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "Absolutely. But for now, let's focus on the stories we're living." Chapter 3. Learning Lyra's World. The next morning brought a renewed sense of purpose to the crew of the Pioneer. Dr. Evan Blake and Lieutenant Marcus Reed were joined by Dr. Theo Harris, a biologist, as they prepared for a day of exploration guided by their new alien friend Lyra. "Did you ever think we'd be walking with an alien, learning about their world firsthand?" Theo asked, adjusting his pack as they met outside the habitat. "It's beyond what I imagined," Marcus admitted, his voice filled with wonder. "Today's going to be another chapter for the history books." They rendezvoused with Lyra at the edge of what appeared to be a carefully cultivated forest. The vegetation was unlike anything on Earth, with luminescent leaves and vines that shimmered under the planet's twin suns. "As part of our greeting, I wish to show you the heart of the Lena," Lyra announced, her voice echoing slightly in their helmets. "It is where we learn as younglings." "The heart of the Lena?" Evan asked, intrigued. "It is a place of learning, much like your schools," Lyra explained as they followed a winding path through the forest. "Here, we connect with our environment. The plants teach us." "The plants teach you?" Theo was skeptical but curious. "How exactly does that work?" Lyra paused beside a large, flowering bush, its blooms pulsating gently. "Through touch and harmony. Watch." She placed her hands on the blooms, closing her eyes. After a moment, she beckoned Theo forward. "Place your hands here," she instructed. Theo hesitated, then mimicked her actions. A soft hum filled the air, and Theo gasped as his suit sensors started to register a flood of complex biochemical data. "It's incredible," Theo muttered, eyes wide beneath his visor. "The plant is communicating, sharing its genetic data directly." As they moved deeper into the heart of the Lena, Lyra introduced them to various forms of plant life, each with unique methods of interaction. Evan noted everything, aware that each piece of data was a valuable key to understanding not just this planet but potentially others. "Your people have found a remarkable way to live with your environment," Marcus observed. "There's a sort of poetry to it, a rhythm that feels almost musical." "Yes," Lyra agreed. "It is the music of life, the symphony we strive to preserve and enhance." Their path eventually led them to a clearing, where structures built from an organic material blended seamlessly with the surrounding trees. "This is one of our learning centers," Lyra said. "Here, we meld our minds with the natural world." The center was alive with activity. Alien children, similar in form to Lyra but smaller and more translucent, were engaged in interactive learning with the plants and small, creature-like entities. "Are those animals, like our fauna?" Theo asked, pointing to a group of small, hopping beings. "In a sense," Lyra replied. "But they are more. They are part of the Lena, essential to our world's balance." The humans watched, fascinated, as the alien younglings demonstrated their learning processes, showing how they could communicate and even slightly alter the color and shape of the foliage around them. "This is a form of education we could only dream of," Evan said, genuinely impressed. "Your integration with nature, it's something we've struggled with on Earth." "Our paths have been different," Lyra acknowledged. "But perhaps there is knowledge here that can help your people as well." As the suns began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the vibrant landscape, the group made their way back to the pioneer camp. The air was filled with the strange, beautiful calls of the Lena night creatures. "Today was about learning, but I feel like we've barely scratched the surface," Marcus said, his voice contemplative as they walked. Evan nodded in agreement. "There's so much here to understand, to explore. It's not just about the science. It's about seeing the universe in a new way." Back at the habitat, they debriefed, each man eager to catalogue their findings and plan for the coming days. "Tomorrow we dig deeper," Evan decided, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of discovery. "There's a whole world waiting for us." The crew agreed, their minds racing with possibilities as the stars of Proxima Centauri shone brightly above, a celestial tapestry that watched over them as they ventured into the unknown. Chapter 4. Unspoken Words. The following day on Proxima Centauri b was marked by a deepening understanding and a subtle shift in communication between the humans and their alien host, Lyra. Dr. Evan Blake, Lieutenant Marcus Reed, and Dr. Theo Harris started their morning by the habitat, prepping their gear for another day of exploration. "You think we'll get a chance to see more of those interactive sessions with the younglings?" Theo asked as he checked the settings on his environmental suit. "Hope so. "There's a lot to learn from their educational methods," Marcus replied, securing his helmet. "But I'm more curious about their technology. It's so integrated with nature. It almost seems invisible." Evan joined the conversation, holding a small, handheld device they had received from Lyra. She mentioned she'd show us more about how they harness energy from their environment. Apparently, it's something to do with these devices. As they approached the meeting point, Lyra was already there, her form blending subtly with the surroundings. Her greeting today was less verbal and more through gestures, an open palm extended towards them, a nod, actions that were becoming familiar and meaningful. "Good morning, Lyra," Evan greeted, mimicking her gesture. "We're ready to learn more." Lyra led them through a different part of the forest, where the flora was denser and the air vibrated with unseen energy. She stopped by a large plant with spiraling leaves and placed her device at its base. The plant seemed to respond, its leaves unfurling slightly faster. "This plant, like many others, helps us capture solar energy in a way that doesn't harm the ecosystem," Lyra explained. "The energy is then stored here," she tapped the device, "and distributed wherever it's needed." "Efficient and sustainable," Theo noted, examining the interface of the device with keen interest. "Our solar panels are so clunky compared to this." They continued their walk, Lyra showing them various plants and their specific roles in her community. It wasn't just about utility, but a deep-seated respect and symbiosis with the planet. As they ventured further, they reached a clearing where the ground was soft and spongy. Lyra bent down, pressing her hand against the soil. After a moment, she invited Evan to do the same. Evan hesitated, then mimicked her action, feeling a slight warmth and a pulse, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. "Is this another form of energy collection?" he asked. "In a way," Lyra replied. "But it's also a form of communication. The ground, the plants, the air, they all carry messages. We just need to know how to listen." The lesson struck a chord with the team, particularly Marcus, who had been more focused on the mechanics rather than the philosophy of alien technology. "So, your technology doesn't just serve a purpose. It's a part of your dialogue with nature?" "Exactly," Lyra said, leading them to a stream that shimmered with bioluminescent algae. "We live with our world, not just on it." Their day was spent exploring these nuances, understanding not just the how, but the why behind Lyra's people's way of life. They learned to use the devices, to feel the pulse of the environment, and to communicate through touch and presence rather than just words. As they returned to the habitat at dusk, the air between the humans was quieter, more reflective than before. Today felt different, Theo mused as they removed their gear. Less about exploring a new world and more about understanding our place in it. Evan nodded, feeling the weight and wonder of their experiences. It's a reminder of how varied life can be, and how much we can expand our own perceptions. Marcus, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "It's not just about adapting their technology for Earth. It's about adapting their respect for nature, their rhythm of life." As they settled down for the evening, the stars overhead were not just points of light, but symbols of the vast, intricate connections that the universe held, a network of life, learning, and unspoken words, waiting to be understood. Chapter 5. Beneath Alien Stars. Under the eerie glow of Proxima Centauri B's triple moons, the landscape took on a spectral beauty. Dr. Evan Blake, Lieutenant Marcus Reed, and Dr. Theo Harris were gathered outside the habitat, prepping for a nocturnal field trip that Lyra had suggested. The evening was cool, the air filled with the soft hums and chirps of nocturnal creatures. "Do you think it's safe, venturing out at night like this?" Theo asked, adjusting his night vision gear. "Lyra seems to think we'll be fine," Marcus replied, checking his equipment. "She mentioned the night reveals different aspects of the planet we can't see during the day." Evan nodded in agreement. "It's a different world at night. Let's stay alert and follow her lead." They met Lyra at the edge of the forest, where she greeted them with a nod. Her skin seemed to shimmer more intensely in the moonlight, blending with the ambient light of the night. "Tonight, you will see the Lena as few others have," Lyra announced, her voice echoing softly. "Follow closely and do not stray." The forest was transformed at night, the flora emitting soft glows of bioluminescence that lit their path. The air was vibrant with the life of nocturnal creatures, and every so often, Lyra would pause to explain the roles these beings played in the ecosystem. This plant, Lyra pointed to a towering fern-like structure that pulsated with a soft blue light. It purifies the air more effectively at night. It sleeps during the day. "Amazing," Theo murmured, recording the data. "The efficiency of your ecosystem's adaptations is remarkable." As they delved deeper into the woods, Lyra brought them to a clearing where the light from the moons illuminated a large body of water, a lake that reflected the sky with startling clarity. "This is the Mirror Lake," Lyra explained. "It is said to reflect not just the sky but the soul." The men were captivated by the sight. The stars and moons above mirrored perfectly on the still surface of the lake. "It's beautiful," Marcus said, his voice soft, like a piece of the night sky trapped on the ground. They sat by the lake, and Lyra began to speak of her people's beliefs, how they viewed their lives as part of a larger cosmos, each individual a reflection of the universe. "Our ancestors taught us that to understand the universe, we must understand ourselves," Lyra said, her gaze fixed on the stars reflected in the lake. "Each of us contributes to the balance of life, much like each star contributes to the night." Evan listened intently, finding a peace in her words that resonated with his own feelings about space and exploration. As explorers, we're always looking outwards, trying to find new stars, new worlds, Evan shared. "Tonight, sitting here, it feels like we're also exploring inward. The best journeys are those that bring us closer to understanding both," Lyra agreed, her eyes meeting Evan's. "Your presence here has opened new paths not just for you, but for us as well." They continued talking, sharing stories of Earth and the Lena, finding common ground in their shared stargazing. The conversation drifted from scientific theories to philosophical reflections, each man contributing thoughts shaped by the serene environment. As the night deepened, they prepared to return to the habitat, reluctant to leave the tranquil shores of the Mirror Lake. "This night will stay with me," Theo said as they walked back. "It's not just what we saw, but what we felt here." "Yeah," Marcus added. "It's one thing to explore a planet, but another to connect with it, to feel a part of its night and day." Back at the habitat, they thanked Lyra for the unique experience, promising to revisit the lake before their mission ended. As they settled down for the night, the stars above seemed more familiar, more connected to their own lives than ever before. The triple moons shone brightly, a reminder of the night's revelations and the deeper bonds they'd forged with Proxima Centauri. Chapter 6. When Human Souls Meet Alien Stars. The day following their nocturnal exploration was one of reflection and deeper conversation. Dr. Evan Blake, Lieutenant Marcus Reed, and Dr. Theo Harris gathered in the common area of the habitat, discussing the profound insights shared by Lyra by the Mirror Lake. "I've been thinking about what Lyra said last night, about understanding the universe by understanding ourselves," Evan started, looking thoughtful. "It ties back to why we're here, doesn't it? To learn not just about this world, but also about how we fit into the bigger picture. The way they use their technology, the way they integrate with their environment. It's all about balance," Marcus added, flipping through his digital notes. "Makes you wonder what we could change back on Earth." The conversation was interrupted by Lyra's arrival. She entered with a grace that seemed to resonate with the peaceful morning. "I am pleased to find you in good spirits," she greeted. "Today, I would like to show you the Crest of Harmony. It is a place where many of our kind have forged lifelong bonds." Intrigued, the men quickly prepared for another journey, their curiosity piqued by the prospect of understanding another aspect of the Lena culture. The journey took them through varied landscapes, each more breathtaking than the last. The Crest of Harmony was located on a high plateau, offering a panoramic view of the verdant world below. The plateau was dotted with structures that seemed to grow out of the ground itself, organic and designed to catch the light of the twin suns. As we meet under these alien stars, we find that our souls are not so different, Lyra began, gesturing to the surrounding beauty. Here, we celebrate the connections between all beings. Evan stepped forward, the emotional impact of the sight and Lyra's words resonating deeply within him. It's incredible, Lyra. On Earth, we often celebrate our connections through music, art, sometimes under the light of our single moon. Lyra's eyes brightened at this sharing. "Show me this art, this music of your people," she requested. Theo, who had brought his tablet for data collection, pulled up recordings of various Earth music performances. The sounds of orchestras, jazz bands, and solo pianists filled the air, mingling with the alien landscape. Lyra listened intently, her body swaying slightly with the rhythms. "It moves me," she admitted. "Your music speaks of your love, your losses, your victories. It is much like our own expressions." Moved by the exchange, Marcus suggested, perhaps we could integrate some of our technology here, record these moments of cultural exchange. It could benefit both our peoples. The group agreed enthusiastically. They spent the day setting up equipment that would allow them to capture the essence of the Crest of Harmony, planning to share these insights in a cultural exchange program back home. As the suns began to set, casting a golden light over the plateau, Evan and Lyra found themselves standing slightly apart from the others, looking out over the world below. "It seems we are always looking to the stars for answers," Evan mused aloud. "Yes, but sometimes," Lyra replied, turning to meet his gaze, "the stars are merely a backdrop to the answers we find in each other." The depth of their conversation and the connection they felt underscored the day's theme: understanding and unity. It wasn't just about studying an alien civilization. It was about building a bridge between human and alien hearts. As they returned to the habitat that evening, the stars twinkled above, echoing Lyra's words. Their mission had transcended its scientific beginnings, evolving into a journey of shared humanity and new friendships beneath the alien stars. Chapter 7: Bonds Beyond Worlds. The profound exchanges at the Crest of Harmony left Dr. Evan Blake, Lieutenant Marcus Reed, and Dr. Theo Harris deeply affected. The men gathered in the Habitat's briefing room the next morning, discussing how best to document their experiences and the knowledge they had gathered. "The data we've collected, it's not just scientific. It's cultural, almost spiritual," Theo remarked, reviewing their recordings and notes. Marcus nodded, his face serious. "We need to present this in a way that respects their culture. It's about more than just us now." Evan was looking at a map of the area they had explored with Lyra. "I think we should propose a joint venture with Lyra's people. Something that benefits both our worlds." The conversation was interrupted by Lyra's arrival. Her timing, as always, seemed impeccable. "I have heard your discussions," she said, her voice carrying a tone of partnership, "and I bring an invitation from my elders. They wish to meet with you, to discuss our future interactions." The men exchanged looks of excitement and apprehension. Meeting with the elders was a significant step forward. "We accept with gratitude," Evan responded. "We hope to foster a relationship that honors both our peoples." The meeting with the elders took place at a site that was central to Lyra's community, an awe-inspiring structure that seemed to pulse with life, its walls embedded with luminescent stones that lit their path. The elders, like Lyra, had an ethereal quality, their wisdom evident in their slow, deliberate speech. "We welcome you, children of Earth," one elder began. "Your journey here has been watched with great interest. We come with open hearts and the desire to learn," Evan replied, following the protocol Lyra had briefed them on. The discussions that followed were intense and illuminating. The elders expressed their perspectives on the cosmos, their understanding of their place within it, and their concerns about outside influences. Marcus spoke on behalf of the pioneer crew. "We seek only peace and knowledge. Our hope is to share what is beneficial and protect what needs preserving." As the meeting unfolded, Theo presented some of the technologies that Earth could share, emphasizing environmental sustainability and energy efficiency, areas where both civilizations could benefit. The elders consulted among themselves, their conversation a silent, contemplative exchange. Finally, they turned back to the humans, their decision apparent in their calm demeanor. "We will proceed cautiously," the leading elder stated. A partnership, if balanced and respectful, could be the seed of a great harmony. Grateful for the positive response, Evan suggested a small-scale project to start, an exchange of knowledge and resources focused on environmental conservation. "As a symbol of our commitment, we offer these," Lyra said, presenting the men with small, intricately crafted devices that facilitated the growth of native flora. "May they remind you of the bonds formed under our twin suns." The rest of the day was spent in detailed planning and discussions about practical steps forward. As the sun set, Lyra led the men back to the habitat. "That went better than I could have hoped," Evan said, relief evident in his voice. "We're not just building bridges between worlds. We're weaving a tapestry that includes both our peoples," Theo added, optimistic about the future. Back at the habitat, the crew celebrated the successful meeting. They spoke of home, of what they missed and what they hoped to bring back, a new understanding of what it means to connect with another world. As night fell on Proxima Centauri b, the habitat seemed less like a foreign outpost and more like a home, a beacon in the vast cosmos where human souls and alien stars had indeed met and found a shared path. Chapter 8. Echoes of the Heart. The weeks on Proxima Centauri b had flown by, leaving Dr. Evan Blake, Lieutenant Marcus Reed, and Dr. Theo Harris with memories that would last a lifetime. The success of their mission was undeniable. They had achieved more than any of them could have imagined. Yet, as the day of departure loomed, the mood among the crew was somber. Evan sat outside the habitat, gazing up at the twin suns dipping below the horizon. The alien landscape, once so strange, now felt familiar. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Marcus. "Thinking about what comes next?" Marcus asked, sitting down beside him. "Yeah," Evan admitted, running a hand through his hair. "It's hard to believe this is almost over. It feels like we're just starting to understand this world." "Maybe it's not an end," Marcus offered. "Maybe it's the beginning of something bigger, something for both our worlds." Evan smiled faintly. "I hope you're right." Theo joined them a few minutes later, holding a tablet. "I've finished compiling the final report for Earth Command. It's a lot to process. I hope they see what we've seen here." "They will," Evan assured him. "They have to. This place, these people. There's so much we can learn if we're willing to listen." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Lyra. Her presence, as always, brought a calm energy to the group. "You seem troubled," she observed, her glowing eyes moving from one man to the next. "We're leaving soon," Evan explained, his voice heavy. "It's difficult to say goodbye to a place, and people, who've changed us so profoundly." Lyra regarded him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps our paths will cross again," she said softly. "The stars are vast, but connections endure." The next morning, Lyra invited them to a farewell ceremony organized by her community. The event took place near Mirror Lake, the location that had been so pivotal in their journey. The area was decorated with glowing plants arranged in intricate patterns, and the air was filled with the harmonious hum of Lyra's people singing, a sound that seemed to resonate with the planet itself. Evan, Marcus, and Theo were given small tokens of appreciation, beautifully crafted artifacts that symbolized unity and shared knowledge. Evan's gift was particularly striking, a crystal sphere that captured the light of the twin suns, casting shimmering patterns that evoked both Earth and the Lena. "You will always carry a piece of this world with you," Lyra told him as she placed the sphere in his hands. After the ceremony, the group lingered by the lake, reluctant to leave. Lyra stayed by Evan's side, the two of them speaking in low tones as Marcus and Theo gave them space. "This isn't the end, is it?" Evan asked, searching her face. "Endings and beginnings are intertwined," Lyra replied. "The stars will guide your path, and perhaps one day it will lead you back here." There was a long pause before Evan spoke again, his voice quieter. "I'll miss this place. I'll miss you." Lyra placed a hand over his. "And I you. But you are not truly leaving. The connections we have forged will remain, no matter the distance." When the time came to board the Pioneer, the crew stood at the base of the ship, exchanging final words with Lyra. Marcus and Theo both expressed their gratitude and promised to advocate for continued collaboration between their worlds. Evan was the last to speak. He hesitated for a moment, then extended his hand. Lyra took it, their eyes meeting in a moment of mutual understanding. "Thank you, Lyra," he said simply, "for everything." She inclined her head. "Go well, Evan Blake. And remember, when human souls meet alien stars, the universe is forever changed." The words stayed with him as he climbed aboard the ship. As the Pioneer lifted off, leaving Proxima Centauri B behind, Evan stood at the viewport, watching the planet grow smaller. Marcus joined him, his expression thoughtful. "You think Earth is ready for what we've found here?" "I think it has to be," Evan replied. "And if it's not, we'll make it ready." Theo appeared beside them, grinning. "One thing's for sure, this mission has changed us all. I can't wait to see how it changes Earth." As the Pioneer broke free of the planet's gravity and began its journey home, the three men stood together, each carrying a piece of Proxima Centauri B in their hearts. The stars ahead seemed brighter, their light a reminder of the connections forged beneath alien skies.